Welcome back to another Red Dice Diaries video, and in this video I'm going to be reflecting on my God Machine game which I ran with Fate Accelerated. Now, for those of you who are not aware, if I just reach behind my computer here, this is the God Machine Chronicle book. It's a book by Onyx Path Publishing for the World of Darkness, and the idea of the God Machine is that this huge ancient mechanism runs behind the world and has been doing since time immemorial, controlling the destinies of mankind and working some strange plan that no one can fully understand. However, occasionally individuals do catch sight of the workings of the God Machine, and their lives are irrevocably changed by it. And this Chronicle book deals with those sort of people. Now, I won't go too much into the nitty-gritty of the God Machine Chronicles book here, since I'm planning on doing a separate review of that in a future video, and I'll leave all the nitty-gritty until that. This video is more to reflect on the game that I actually finished yesterday, excuse me, which I ran using the God Machine book, but instead of using the normal World of Darkness rules or the updated World of Darkness rules, as featured in the God Machine Chronicles and available as a free PDF from Onyx Path, I decided to use the Fate Accelerated system. Now, in this case, although I am one of the world's biggest fans of the Fate Core and Fate Accelerated system, I make no bones about saying that. In this case, I chose to use Fate Accelerated since I wanted to focus fully on the setting details. This great looming mechanism, the sort of cosmic horror element. In fact, if the God Machine wasn't a machine and had tentacles, it'd almost be an ideal fit for the mythos. It's one of these unknowable, unfathomable entities that moves like a giant behind recorded history. And I really wanted to focus in on that, but I was aware that we had a lot of people who've played an awful lot of World of Darkness, myself included. So I was looking for a way to get us to focus fully on the background and on the individual player characters rather than on the rules. And I thought the best way of doing that was having a very simple rule system, and Fate Accelerated is ideal for that. It's easily adaptable, not too complicated, quick to pick up, quick to create characters, and you can just jump straight in. Especially with the God Machine game, since all of the player characters were mortals rather than supernatural, so there was no real additional rules required, no hacks necessary, as they're called. Now, the game seemed to go very well. It was certainly one of the more satisfactory endings I've had for a game, and all the players said that they very much enjoyed it. So what were the major differences, as I found them, running this game with Fate, as opposed to, as I've done with all my previous World of Darkness games, using the main World of Darkness rules? Well, the character generation was far quicker. It probably took us no more than 15 minutes to half an hour to generate characters. And bear in mind, this is with a group of people who never even picked up Fate Accelerated or any of the Fate products or seen them before. So that's fairly good. Certainly, it would take you an awful lot longer to explain to someone new to the World of Darkness how to create a character in that system. The rules seem to intrude less on the game as we progress. There was no flipping through the book to see what a certain merit did, or checking exactly how many dots you needed to do a certain thing. All of it's fairly simply written on the sheets. Players' stunts gave them certain bonuses which are recorded on the sheets. Other than that, it was simply rolling your approaches and spending your fate points to trigger your aspects. Now, aspects were another part of the system which worked really well, and it led to some really unique characters, from Maggie Pike, a council flat dwelling, weed smoking pharmacology student, to a receptionist from a local hospital who had experienced a traumatic event which had led her flunking out of medical school, but she still wanted to help people, so she worked as a translator and a receptionist at her local hospital. To Smokey Joe Thompson, who was a member of the old guard, the old school sort of craze style criminals who had their own sort of code of honour, and was quite disgusted with this new wave of thuggish, unprincipled criminals that seemed to be taking over, the Yobs and the Hoodies taking over the the local crime scene, to Brian the Bulldog Best, who was a transit driver who occasionally bought stuff in under the counter, as it were, from foreign climes for Joe Thompson. We even had someone playing an old school Polish criminal type. Unfortunately, the player of that character was only able to make a single session, so that character didn't really have a great impact on the game. However, some of the aspects and some of the contacts he had when we genned up the session certainly did. In fact, one of them, a Mr. Prezi, was one of the major NPCs in the last and the second to last session. And the aspects allowed us to not only define their characters, but also define elements of the setting that they wanted to see. Another useful thing was we carried out the generating the setting using the ideas from the Fate Accelerated book. I literally had a stack of index cards. I went around the players asking them to give me ideas about what they wanted to see. We noted all of that stuff down, and I simply used that during play to build up the framework of this Specto Vale council flat apartments where the game was set. So what was the same in the game? Well, the atmosphere was very much a World of Darkness game. It had that whole sort of modern horror element to it. And I followed some great advice in the Fate Toolkit, a book that I'd recommend to anyone interested in seeing how things can be done differently in Fate Core or Fate Accelerated. And part of the advice I used out of this was to make sure that there were plenty of compels featured in the game. Plenty of things to give players the idea that there was a lot of stuff going on in the background that they maybe weren't privy to, and then slowly revealing this over the course of the sessions, leading to the final confrontation with the God Angel and Mr. White, the strange leader of the group consortium, the management, who owned the Specto Vale apartment block and had it run through their mouthpiece. Now, I also like the fact that I was able to create many of the strange and unusual effects, such as entering a mirror reflection version of the world and the numerous creatures that were found there, pretty much from the top of my head, on the fly as it were, and the rules supported that. They were loose enough to support that without me having to throw myself into an awful lot of complex rules, without me having to work out lots of detail about how things work. Instead, I could focus more on the atmosphere of the game and creating that feeling of the sort of cosmic horror feeling and the personal horror feeling, which was easy to do because I could use compels and I could use things in the game and plot to interfere and affect those things which the characters valued most, which were handily laid out for me in the aspects that they've taken. In short, I think that Fate Accelerated and the Fate system in general is a really, really good match for the World of Darkness. There's a few things that you have to bear in mind while you're doing it, as we've discussed, and certainly there's some great advice in the Fate Toolkit about running a horror game. However, if you're thinking of running a World of Darkness game, but you're maybe not entirely enamoured of the occasionally obtuse rules that are in there, I'd recommend that you give Fate a go. There may be some more adaptation required if you're running a game that involves supernatural protagonists, and I intend to run a game of Demon the Descent when Onyx Path release it. I'll probably look and see whether I can use Fate Accelerated to run that, and I'm hopeful that I will be able to. So give it a go, and I hope that if you've enjoyed this video, you'll like it and click on subscribe in the links below. If you have any comments on using other systems with the World of Darkness background, any comments on Fate or Fate Accelerated, or the God Machine Chronicles themselves, please feel free to leave your comments in the boxes below. And until I see you in the next video, I look forward to reading what you write. Thanks very much for listening.